Hello and welcome to this video where I'm going to show you the features of the Halcyon Spooled File Manager GUI. So we'll start on the iSeries where I have an output queue rule that's already been created. And if I just page down, you'll see that the action that's been specified within this particular rule is to export the spooled files for this output queue that you see shown here. It's going to export that to the conference DT system. Now that's the system that I'm currently working on, and it's also the system that has the Halcyon Spooled File Manager GUI installed. Now, all the actions that are possible on the GUI itself can natively be performed on the iSeries. So there's no additional functionality that the GUI brings. It's just if you prefer a Windows-based application opposed to using the green screen. So let's take a look at the Spooled File Manager GUI itself. So before we go off and start processing some spooled files, there's a few things that I'd like to show you. The first part is this messages pane, which enables you to have an overview of what the Spooled File Manager GUI is currently processing. The screen at the bottom shows you the current systems that you have monitoring. Now I only have one system logged here, but you could have multiple systems, and for each system you can configure its own filters and appropriate actions. The inactive status that you see down at the bottom here, this is just because the spool file GUI isn't actually running at the moment, and we can start it using this Start Spool Monitor option. The rubber over on the side will clear the messages, so any messages that you have listed in the bottom, if you want to start from fresh, it may be you're monitoring a particular spool file going through, then you can always click on the rubber. If we come into Tools and take Options, this is where all the configuration is performed for the Spool File Manager GUI. There's various general options that you can take, and you can see down here you can activate a login to be put out to a file. We move on to the Systems tab. This is where you can add a system. If I just double click on the system that's already in place, you'll see that within here you specify the system type, which is going to be OS400. You add in the host or IP address of the system that you want to have connected to the Spool File Manager. Make sure that you specify the port number that will be available within the green screen itself. And once you've added everything in, just click on Verify. That will go off and it will just ensure that it can communicate with the Halcyon product on the iSeries. Now before you can go ahead and click OK, you will need to come into the details, just add a description and also the location for that device. So once that's complete, click OK and you'll have your system ready for being able to export spooled files to. So if we click on to Filters, now within the Filters section, where you have multiple systems, you can drop the box down and select which system you want to work with. And each system can have its own interval check. So this is the interval period that the GUI is going to connect back to the iSeries and communicate with the Halcyon product to see whether there's any spooled files that are ready for export. Down in the bottom here you'll see that there's a filter already in place, and if I just click on Edit, we'll take a look at that filter. This is just a general filter that's going to be active 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And when I click on Criteria, there's quite a few options that you can set to either catch specific spooled files, or you can have it open for all, as you can see with my example here. Once you've added in the criteria for the spooled files that you're interested in processing, we then need to move on and decide what action we want to perform. If I just click to add a new action and just drop down the selection box there, you'll see that there's 4 different types of actions that we can perform from this GUI. We can create a PDF, we can create a text file, we can send an email, or we can create an image file. Depending on what you select is what options you have appear at the top here. So when we choose to create a PDF file, we can then select on the destination path and we can choose where we want to save that PDF to. The subject tab next enables you to give the PDF a subject. There's a range of substitution variables available, and you can have a combination of substitution variables to create the subject, as is the same with the file name. So you can choose to just have the spool name, Or you may want to add in, for example, the spool time and the spool date, or even the user data substitution variables. And as you build up those substitution variables at the top, it will give you an example of what you're actually creating just in this example bar down the bottom. Would you like to add coloured bands to each page? This essentially is creating what the old term of green listing is, where it will add the green lines onto the PDF, and once I've created the PDF and we open it, you'll see exactly what I mean. You can change the layouts. We recommend that you leave the layout by default, but if you wanted to change them, you could come in and change the margins within here. And when you are processing a PDF, you can choose whether you want to embed the font into the document, and also perhaps add some additional PDF document information such as the author, creator or title. So once you've created your action, it will appear within the action here, and then that filter is ready to look for any spooled files on the iSeries, and if it detects them that matches the criteria, it will then create them as a PDF. So if we just continue across the top here, we support address books, either Outlook or Lotus Notes, so you can pull email addresses from address books, and we can specify the mail server that you prefer to use if you're taking the email action. Support for server authentication has been included, so if you do require that, just tick the box and add in the username and password. And for the email, you need to just specify the sender address. There's a couple of options that enables you to log either the status message for each email recipient or log any mail server debug messages. So once you've gone through and set up your options, you then can come into the GUI and start the Spool Manager. If we jump back to the iSeries, my monitoring is already active, so I'm just going to generate a very simple spooled file, and we can check whether that spool file has been detected by Halcyon, so we can take option 2 to work with alert log. And you'll see that there's an alert in here which tells me that Halcyon has detected that there's a spooled file on the Nikki output queue, which is the rule that I have monitoring the output queue. And if I go into work with action history, you'll see that the action performed has been an export. So that's passed the spooled file over to the GUI itself. At this top entry here, you'll see that the spooled file was received and saved as a PDF onto the desktop. Let's just minimize these. If we just open up this PDF document, you'll see it's been created today, and the green listing format that we selected earlier, you'll see the green lines that have been added onto the PDF. And that's one of the actions that can be performed by the Halcyon Spooled File Manager GUI. If we just take a look at some of the other actions that are available, if we come back into the rule that I already had created and we drop down the box, creating a text file is quite similar to the PDF, where you're given a destination, the option to create the file name, whether you want to add a border to each page, so it's just like a dashed border that can be added. In the text file, whether you want to omit blank lines, and that will then give you the output as if you'd taken the spool file through the iSeries navigator and dropped it on your desktop. If you take the option to send an email, it will give you the choice whether you want to include the spool file in the body of an email as an attachment, and whether you want to have it in PDF format, plain text or bitmap format. The recipients that you want to send the email to, the subject that you want to include on the email itself, any body text that you would like to include, and the file name that's going to be created because you'll send in the spooled file as an attachment. Again, whether you want to add the coloured bands, if you wish to add a border, if you want to change the page margins, and if it's PDF, whether you want to embed the font and the PDF document information. And finally, just taking a quick look at the bitmap. If you want to create a bitmap image, and it gives you the choice, destination, where you'd like it to go, what name you'd like to call it, whether you want to add the coloured bands, and also whether you want to add a border. And each of those actions will be performed for every system that you have registered and according to the filters that you configure. That's the end of this video. I hope it's been of great help. If you do have any queries or any issues with the configuration, please do feel free to contact us at technicalservices@halcyonsoftware.com. Thank you.